Good evening and welcome to Give Me a Break. I'm Jonathan Carmody. Is it just me, or are we paying school districts too much money to educate the unenrolled students that are not enrolled in school? In other words, the ones who are enrolled and not transferred are still being paid by the taxpayers in Baltimore County. Well, last week we told you a story about these unenrolled students that have been enrolled, that have been unenrolled just from school by looking at a chart of those unenrolled kids, uneducated to be exact. And from what we can tell, it was over 9,000 kids unenrolled from 2024. And yet, during that time, Baltimore County is still paying the schools over $1 million. $1 million. $1 million. What the hell's going on? Here's Chris Papps.
This letter, written by the Maryland Inspector General for Education, Rick Henry, is eye-opening.
It's very alarming.
Henry wrote this letter in response to a Fox 45 investigation that found in 2024, Maryland taxpayers gave public schools an estimated $168 million to educate students who could not be found.
There needs to be some course correction.
Our reporting prompted State Delegate Kathy Schlager to write Henry's office requesting an investigation. This letter is Henry's reply, which contains the number $990 million. The amount the IG says taxpayers could actually have sent schools to educate students who were not in class.
So as it stands right now, we know that schools are receiving money to educate students that aren't there.
Correct.
How do you fix this?
The only way it can be fixed is by the legislature.
Under current state law, most of the school's funding is based on the number of students counted and enrolled on one day, September 30th. But throughout the school year, many students are unenrolled. Documented reasons range from lack of interest to court action. But thousands of students who are funded simply stop showing up and are categorized as whereabouts unknown. And as Project Baltimore First reported last week, it's a number that's drastically increasing.
It's sad because you just want to make sure that student isn't ending up in some type of life of crime. But for some reason, this number keeps increasing.
In his letter, Henry includes this chart, which shows the number of instances where students were labeled whereabouts unknown going back to 2019 and including an estimated number for 2025. The official 2025 state number has not yet been released. Henry then multiplies the cost per student average for each year by the number of whereabouts unknown designations and estimates this issue could have cost taxpayers nearly $1 billion over the past 6 years.
That's a lot of money.
Yes, especially now when budgets are tight and school systems are asking for more money. This is funds that are available.
The funding of missing students, Henry says, is correctable if the state legislature is willing to adjust the funding formulas by counting enrollment more often. Fox 45 has been reporting on the funding of missing students since 2021. Bills have been introduced into the legislature to correct the issue by counting enrollment multiple times a year, but lawmakers in Annapolis never passed the bills. Opponents, such as the teachers union, have argued this legislation would increase administrative burdens and complicate reporting requirements to no apparent benefit. But the Maryland State Department of Education already counts student attendance 3 times a year, in September, March, and June, though only the September count is used to determine funding.
The work is already being done to count the kids,
That's correct.
so there's no more additional work involved.
No, because it's already being done.
Opponents of changing how Maryland funds schools often argue that students are so transient, the funds even out. In other words, throughout the school year, as students move, relocate, or transfer, the amount of funding that a school gains or loses evens out. But the IG says that is not true. The money is not a wash. So how do other states count enrollment to determine funding? That part of the story in the coming days. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
And in the coming days, we'll have that story for you. But the thing is here, if you have students who are not in class, they're not enrolled in your school, they shouldn't be getting that. They should not be getting that money. Refunds need to be getting in, but if we get the money back, we need more money. I mean, it's the pressure. Schools are under pressure because, of all the stuff that's been going on, Even when teachers cheat, it's the pressure. When teachers were caught cheating years ago, it was the pressure that got onto them. Because, they want more money. The school wants more money because they're so poor. They're so poor they can't even eat the spam out of a Gmail account. They're so poor that they have to bust out of jail with a bunch of cliffhangers. They're so poor they can't even afford to move out with one shoe. Jokes aside, in the coming days we'll let you know. Still ahead, this person says he exposed Scientology. Is he nuts? We'll have his story. Please stay with us. It's the latest trend going on during the 2025-2026 school year. We're talking about the cell phone ban. If you're not tuning in this broadcast, we focus on the cell phone ban that Governor Greg Abbott signed back in July to implement to get rid of distraction in the classroom. Now it's unplugged. And now students are speaking out about the bans of cell phones. The whole reason, look, like I said before during our back to school month, the only reason for this ban being put into place is to end distraction to our educational process and prevent mental health. But a lot of kids can defend saying, like, oh, what it meant. Remember Uvalde? The cops even get involved. Kids had to call the police. And on top of that, parents are saying, oh, Uvalde was the whole reason why I got my child a phone. Well, good for you. The state wants to be number one and end distraction to the educational process. Take a look.
Homecoming Day at Jericho High School on New York's Long Island looked very different this year. Same big display of school spirit on the gym floor, but up in the stands, instead of a sea of phones held high to capture the moment, we saw faces.
Big pep rally today. No phones at the pep rally?
Nope.
No cell phones because this year students have to put them away for the whole school day, bell to bell.
Does anyone violate the policy?
Every day.
Every day. New York, along with most other states, has mandated cell phone restrictions in public schools. The others, they're considering legislation too. Which means a whole new world for kids. Nearly all of whom, from high school age on down, were born after the first iPhone hit the market.
We always have our phones, so now it's like, we can't even have our phones, so it's like, can we even remember this moment 10 years from now? Sometimes wow, I wish I had my phone.
The fact is, smartphones carry much of their life stories.
My name is Sonia Nye, and I'm 15.
My name is Adam Cohen. I'm a senior in high school.
Sabrina Cruz, I am 17.
We spoke to these Jericho High students.
My name is Ryan Hassan, I'm 15 and I'm a sophomore in high school.
Cynthia Chen, and I'm a senior in high school.
As they were about a month into the new no phones policy.
I'm having, in a sense, a little separation anxiety. Just a little bit, because I can't have my mom in my pocket, can't have my dad in my pocket, can't have my friends in my pocket.
Inconvenient, perhaps, but phones, if we even have to tell you, had, in the opinion of most high school teachers, become a major problem in the classroom.
Social media, that was a big game changer.
Brian Cummings is co-principal at Jericho High.
Students were relying on the cell phone for social interaction. Students were using the cell phones in class when they should have been paying attention to their teachers.
Now it's the students, too, who say they were missing something when they had their phones in class.
I honestly realized that this year a lot of the things are pretty interesting. For example, like I was never a big history person. Like I was always like on my phone because I was like, this is boring. But this year it's like, wow, this is actually really interesting because it relates to like my world right now.
You're gonna take a look at this function.
Without the phones now, especially like class discussions, they're like a lot more engaging.
So all these kids, I actually don't see a lot of phone use.
At the University of Pennsylvania, the kind of school many Jericho families dream of,
Okay, look, part A.
Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel has gone even further, banning all technology in his classroom.
Aren't they already capable of paying attention? You would be surprised. They're shopping, they're Instagramming, they're emailing, they're looking at the newspaper. And by the way, it's not just phones, it happens the same. I know it happens with computers in the room, anything that has an internet link.
And his students agree.
The premise of a cell phone ban is that you are not capable of regulating your use on your own.
And we're not.
It is now 12:41 and period 9 is about to begin.
What's amazing about technology is it's improved in a million ways except for intercom systems. They're exactly the same as they were in 1960. Can you imagine going even further with the tech ban? So not only is there no phones in the classroom, but there's no computers.
That's how we fall behind as a generation.
I think that's like a similar argument that you might have had like maybe 50 years ago with like calculators.
In addition to calculators, parental protection, you might say overprotection, has become the norm.
Any calls from parents who are worried?
They were worried that they're not going to be able to be in contact with their students. If a parent needs to reach a kid in his emergency, call us. We'll pull them out of class immediately.
Or you'll use the intercom system.
Yes.
Maybe the most compelling counterpoint is the idea that we live in dangerous times and you need to be able to reach the outside world and the outside world needs to be able to reach you at all times for safety reasons. Let's solve the danger problem, not by using phones. And a parent contacting a kid doesn't solve the danger problem, just assuages the anxiety.
Oh, you're right.
As for the kids, they are still sorting out what a phone-free school day means for their social lives.
If you have a moment where you don't see any of your friends and you used to look at your phone then, what do you do?
We've only had that program for like 4 weeks. I think we still need a little bit of time to it.
My friends have like found this one gathering spot, so in between periods, if I can't find anyone, they're probably there.
How do you go about making plans for lunch or for after school?
Well, at least for me, I usually just see my friends in the hallway. So I'll be like, oh, are you going to be in the lunchroom this period?
So you talk to people?
Yeah.
This kind of learning is also what makes their principal think the ban is working.
You go into the cafeteria now, it's maybe twice as loud as it used to be. I'm not even exaggerating.
But why?
More kids are talking to each other. One of the most important things of high school is the students learning to become better versions of themselves and get well-rounded. And how can communication not be a big part of that?
And at the end of a phone-free day,
is life better with no phones this year compared to last year?
I'm happy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think I'm living more in the moment.
those moments are to be savored, they now realize, because while smartphones may go on forever, their last year of high school will not.
A lot of sports teams, they had digital cameras and stuff like that, and like I took a bunch of photos with different people. It was more sentimental in a way to take it on the digital camera.
It's like going back like years from now before we were even born.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. Back in the day.
It's just repeating history, you know? We go on, I mean, it's like this. When cell phones were banned, you know, you had to give it up to the teacher and then you had to pay $15. Now laws being put into place, and, you know, it's just telling kids, you know, we just want to end this, we just want to end distraction in our classrooms. And we don't want all this. And that's another thing, you know. That's because of all the cyberbullying that's been going on. You know, they want to not only prevent distraction in the educational process, but they want to end cyberbullying. and all the cheating because of Chat GPT. And even then, you wouldn't even call it that. Coming up, more offset crash tests that you may not know about from different cars. Still ahead, this person says he knows more science. Just ahead, this person knows a lot about Scientology, and he tells John Hockenberry why he exposed Scientology. Stay with us. Last week, we gave you an inside look at the offset crash test. What is it? It's a new kind of test where impact occurs just off-center. The government tests all the cars in an onset crash test, being full head-on. But going over to the side doesn't always mean. So what's supposed to pass the government test and then go on to the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety test? It fails. So the government passes while the Institute fails the test. And as we've been showing you, those tests have failed because of all the accidents. So, after all said and done, how would these tests do for the luxury cars? Let's find out from Lee Thompson.
For more than 2 years now,
Not even budgeted.
the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, IIHS for short, has been crashing popular cars. Four-wheel drives. And family minivans. Sometimes with frightening results.
This is the worst we've seen, I think. The steering column is almost up in the roof.
Now it's about to put a new set of cars to the test. Top-of-the-line luxury cars from BMW and Mercedes, Lexus and Infiniti, Lincoln and Cadillac.
Are luxury cars built better as far as safety is concerned?
Some of them are and some of them aren't.
The Insurance Institute's test is unlike the crash test the government does. And some automakers have said unfair.
I would have to classify it as a ultra high-speed test compared to the types of crashes that happen in the real world.
The government crashes cars at 35 miles an hour into a flat wall, the force spread evenly across the front. The Insurance Institute tests cars at 40, hitting the barrier off-center. Offset it's called, concentrating the forces on one side. The test is designed to simulate what happens if two cars hit like this, driver to driver at about 40 miles an hour.
Automakers have criticized the test, saying accidents like that are rare, that it's wrong to put too much emphasis on any one test, and that since the Institute is funded by insurance companies, it has a vested interest. It cares more about cutting insurance claims than the added cost of building safer cars.
But at least one automaker is breaking ranks.
We don't have a problem with the IHS test.
In fact, Toyota told Dateline the Insurance Institute's offset test is one of the tools it's using now to redesign its cars and improve safety. This is the 1997 Toyota Camry.
All of these areas in yellow were designed and incorporated because of the offset test.
Fits like a glove.
So how well would a luxury car protect you in a serious head-on crash? The Insurance Institute is about to find out. The Institute bought these brand new cars right off dealers' lots. Dateline had no say on how the cars were chosen, tested, or evaluated.
Running in 3, 2, 1.
The car being tested, the BMW 540i. List price, $51,000.
Looks pretty good in there. Steering column's not moved a lot.
Although there's plenty of damage to the front of the car, O'Neill says the safety space around the driver is still in place. You can see what happened with the Institute's slow-motion cameras.
Very little intrusion into the occupant compartments. The restraint performance was good. The injury measures were all good.
This is an example of how it can be done.
If all cars performed this well, we would stop this kind of testing. There would be no point in declare victory.
This is the Lexus LS 400 from Toyota. List price $58,000.
You see there's some rearward movement, but not a lot. There's not major buckling of the door.
The all-important safety space looks good, and at the computer, so do the readings from the dummy.
The legs are extremely quiet.
No injuries whatsoever on the Lexus.
No injury risk at all. This was another example of very good performance.
You can't help but notice the airbag cushioning this dummy's head. What would have happened in this crash had not the airbag gone off?
Oh, in virtually all of these crashes, probably in every single one, the driver's face would hit the steering wheel, so there would be much greater probability of a serious head injury.
The Lexus and the BMW both get the Institute's highest rating for crash safety. But will the other luxury cars match up? The E420 from Mercedes-Benz, list price $51,000.
The first thing that's troubling is the door came open.
Close inspection shows some unusual damage just behind the driver's seat. But in this case, O'Neill says, what may look bad on the outside is actually good news for the driver inside.
So the injury numbers look good.
Once again, no serious injuries to the head, chest, or the legs. And here's why. In a crash this serious, Mercedes knows a car will be totaled anyway. So the company designs the car to spread the damage around the driver.
But this is good, because this is deformation that's absorbing the energy, while the safety cage is maintaining its shape and its space.
Yeah, remember that damage behind the driver? Turns out it's supposed to be there. Mercedes says it designed the new crumple zone to keep its large, heavy car from acting like a battering ram when it hits a smaller car in a head-on accident like this. Mercedes gave Dateline this film of a crash test between its large E-Class on the left and its small A-Class that's being introduced this year in Europe. The small Mercedes is 1,000 pounds lighter and almost 4 feet shorter. But in this test, Mercedes says there were no serious injuries in either car.
Is this something new that we're seeing where the big cars are trying to protect the small cars?
This is one of the newest concepts in safety when it comes to vehicle design.
Because the door popped open, the Institute gives the Mercedes its second highest rating, acceptable. Mercedes says it's looking into why the door opened. The car being tested, the 1997 Lincoln Continental. List price, $41,000.
The left foot, which I can just see, looks like it might be jammed backwards.
The sensors in the dummy indicate a broken leg. A broken leg because the Institute says the safety cage near the driver's feet has been driven back about 8 inches.
There was more intrusion in this vehicle than the other three, but not major amounts of intrusion. We rate this vehicle acceptable. It's still a pretty good performer.
Despite the broken leg?
Despite the broken leg.
The Q45 from Infiniti. List price, $48,000.
Well, this clearly is not the best. Left foot looks wedged pretty good.
Once again, O'Neill says the footwell has collapsed into the dummy's leg. It appears to be broken. But at the computer, the engineers are more interested and surprised by high readings for the head.
That's unusual. It's definitely coming off the airbag somewhat faster.
The Institute thinks the airbag is firing too late to properly cushion the dummy. So to find out, to be absolutely sure, the Institute decides to do the test again with another brand new Infiniti Q45.
It looks very similar.
O'Neill tells us to keep our eye on the light on the hood of the car. It's a test light that comes on the instant the nose of the car touches the barrier.
See that light come on?
Right.
Now we can measure the time before the bag begins to emerge. And you can see this crash has been going on for some time when there's still no airbag. Now it comes out. we presume there's still gas coming into that bag, so instead of going into a soft bag, you're going into a very hard bag.
Just watch. The BMW on the top, the Infiniti on the bottom. The two films are synchronized so the cars are hitting the barrier at precisely the same time. The airbag in the BMW is fully inflated before the Infiniti's even fires. It's still soon enough to keep the driver from hitting the steering wheel, but it's too hard to fully cushion the head.
The head injury that you see in this crash test, how dangerous is it?
It's hard to interpret it in terms of a specific injury. Hitting a firm airbag is not going to cause a skull fracture. It's equivalent maybe to a boxer's blow. Boxers don't fracture skulls, but the sudden jerk of the head can cause a concussion or even unconsciousness.
Infiniti says the car did well in the company's own offset test and told us we are confident, based on our laboratory testing and real-world experience, that the 1997 Q45 is an excellent automobile. But the Institute gives the Q45 an overall rating of marginal. The final luxury car in the Institute's offset test, the 1997 Cadillac Seville SLS. List price, $42,000.
The dummy's head has come back and struck the side of the door here.
The grease paint marks where the dummy's head has hit. The crash drives the steering wheel back into the safety space more than in other cars.
Violent movement of the dummy.
The dummy's head hits the door, but not hard enough to cause significant injury. But O'Neill says one of the dummy's legs is probably broken. The area near the feet has been rammed back as much as 14 inches, the most of the luxury cars tested.
So we're getting major rearward movement in the area where the driver's feet would be.
In the top-rated BMW, you could barely see the damage near the foot pedals. This is the same space in the Cadillac.
There's no question that the structural design of this car in terms of crash performance is inferior to that of the others.
The Institute gives the Cadillac Seville its lowest rating, poor. But poor compared to other luxury cars still may be better than a poor rating in the earlier crash test. Remember, the structural damage and injury readings in some of the vehicles in other classes were much worse. And real-world accident statistics show that because of their size, large luxury cars have fewer deaths and injuries than the average car. In statements to Dateline, General Motors said that we completely disagree with the Insurance Institute's evaluation. GM said it's subjective and makes no sense. The company said the test focused too much on leg injuries and not enough on more serious head and chest injuries. GM added, the Cadillac's performance is outstanding for protecting against life-threatening injuries, better on some injury measures than the top-ranked BMW, and historically better than average on actual insurance injury claims. Most of all, Cadillac and the other automakers say their cars meet all government safety standards. Right now, the government doesn't have a standard for an offset test, but the man in charge of auto safety says he's working to develop one.
This is something that will not only save lives, but will save devastating injuries. It's hard to argue with that.
And Dr. Ricardo Martinez of the government's National Highway Traffic Safety Administration told Dateline that once the minimum standard is written, he wants competitive testing to push automakers to do even better.
To let the consumers of America know how much more these companies invest to go beyond the minimum standards than they can go with their pocketbook.
In all, the Insurance Institute has tested more than 40 different cars, from the luxury models you saw tonight to popular mid-sized cars, family minivans, and sporty four-wheel drives. If you'd like more information about the crash test program or detailed results for a specific car, visit our website at www.dateline.com.
Had it covered.
MSNBC.com. So, if you have those cars, you need to take extra precaution when you have those cars. Even then, you'll still be safe. When we come back, this person is a crusader. A one-man crusader on a mission to expose the Church of Scientology. John Hockenberry with the Crusader. Stay with us. What would make you spend some time looking into cults? Or even better, exposing a cult? We're talking about the Church of Scientology. Many years ago, if you were the member of the Church of Scientology, you might have heard of a guy by the name of Bob Minton. And if you don't know who that is, well, pull up a chair. Pull up a chair. You'll listen to his story about why he took on the Church of Scientology. But there's a twist to the bone. When he turned on Scientology, Scientology turned on him. And then, well, let the report explain. Here's John Hockenberry.
I am involved in a controversy with the Church of Scientology over what I consider to be one of the most fundamental rights in a democracy. That is, the right to speak freely.
You've probably never heard of Robert Minton, but at age 51, this soft-spoken former investment banker has decided to turn what was once a peaceful, financially secure early retirement into a one-man campaign to turn the Church of Scientology on its head.
At the core of Scientology is a very evil vein.
An evil disguised as a church? Bob Minton has lots of terrible things to say about a group that simply claims to offer a path to success and enlightenment. The United States government, in fact, recognizes Scientology as a tax-exempt religious organization. But Bob Minton has risked everything in the cause to convince people that the Church of Scientology is a dangerous cult, a charge the group emphatically denies. What exactly is Scientology? The man who could best answer that question died in 1986. Scientology's founder, L. Ron Hubbard, shown here in this video, The Church Sells. Scientology is based on Hubbard's worldviews. His writings contain ruminations about ancient galaxies, reincarnation, and a deep hatred for the practice of psychiatry. Hubbard himself claims to have discovered a unique self-help formula.
Take an individual and put them in a position where they can confront their own problems and solve their own problems, and so bring themselves up by their own bootstraps.
It's this whole notion of self-empowerment as the key to success that seems to draw some of Hollywood's biggest stars to Scientology, including Tom Cruise and his wife Nicole Kidman, Lisa Marie Presley, Kirstie Alley, and John Travolta.
I found Scientology, and that gave me a kind of sanity. The technology I found so brilliant that kind of put things in perspective for me.
The technology Scientologists talk about involves one-on-one counseling called auditing, and the use of electronic body monitors called e-meters. Together, they're supposed to help clear Scientologists of the negative past experiences that keep them from succeeding. Succeeding like Mike Rinder says he has. Rinder is a senior official in the Church of Scientology.
It's a way of uncovering for yourself the cause of those things which you perceive hold you back, or those things which you would like to solve, or those areas in your life that you would like to have a greater understanding of.
Sounds great, but Scientology's critics say that's the con. Some former members say this religion that promises a higher awareness delivers something else. By the time you learn the secrets of Scientology, they say, you'll be brainwashed and broke. But these days, learning the closely guarded secrets of Scientology is as easy as logging onto the internet. Their critics of the organization have posted Scientology's copyrighted documents. There you can learn L. Ron Hubbard's teaching of how 75 billion years ago an evil galactic overlord named Xenu transported all the universe's bad people to Earth in spaceships and then blew them up with hydrogen bombs. Hubbard teaches that these exploded souls are the root of all human problems, and that only Scientology can clear them out to make way for happiness and success. Until these secrets became public, critics say the only way to learn about Xenu and the exploded souls was to pay money. Going up the ladder of Scientology, they say, is expensive, sometimes thousands of dollars to advance just one level. And if you can't pay to advance, there's another option. Devoted followers literally sign billion-year contracts to serve the church, where former members say you don't have to pay, but are inducted into a highly structured lifestyle that can involve periods of forced labor or disconnecting from your own family.
as I'm being locked in the basement.
They intercepted calls from my parents. They intercept mail from people. And what the critics will say in almost anything.
Scientology regularly and forcefully denies the accusations from what it says are a tiny number of critics, all with questionable backgrounds, several of whom have lost copyright infringement lawsuits brought by the church for making public secret church documents. Church officials insist that one can advance in Scientology without paying money or giving up freedom. Scientology, they say, is really no different from other religions, which must also fight the hateful intolerance around them.
You've been accused of having dirty hands, and your intention has been to harass and intimidate critics into silence. The more I got involved in the Church of Scientology, the more frightening the organization as a whole became to me.
It was about 2 years ago that multi-millionaire retiree Bob Minton first logged on to the internet and started to read the critics' stories of being harassed and hounded by the church. He can't explain why exactly, but the stories moved him to act. He made contact with many of the people he read about. He found himself believing them, and that he could help in their fights against Scientology.
The time has come to stand up to these people.
What do you say to the thousands of Scientologists who joined voluntarily, think it's going great, that it's helping them, in fact, and they don't want to see anything changed? So thank you very much, Bob Minton, but go back to what you were doing.
Well, then, this is what I would really encourage, then, that those people within Scientology take a look at the other side of Scientology, what a lot of people like to call the dark side of Scientology.
My first reaction was, I'm brain dead, why do we have to do this?
Therese Minton has been married to Bob for 19 years.
Has your husband ever done anything like this in the past?
No, he's never really had the opportunity. I mean, he's a very charitable person. He's given money to various churches and charities and schools, but not something of this type.
In fact, nothing in Bob Minton's past would suggest his present course. He's a church-going Catholic who professes a live and let live attitude about other religions. And causes? His wife Therese says, not Bob.
Did you ever say to him, though, maybe tennis? What about golf, butterfly collection, golf? Yeah.
Yes, there were times when I did say, why can't we do something a little more normal, a little more mainstream? But it just wasn't striking the right chord. There came a point in time when I knew that this was it.
In the beginning, Minton's involvement was mostly about writing checks, big ones, to people who said they'd been hurt by the church. Minton has funded lawsuits, rescued an anti-cult organization, given weary defendants and broken-down activists the means to fight on. To date, he's handed out more than $1.7 million of his own dollars to some of Scientology's harshest critics.
That's a lot of money.
It is, but keep in mind that in this battle with Scientology, I'm the little guy. Scientology are the big guys.
Just how big is the multi-million-dollar question? The church claims 8 million followers around the world, but the critics say by their count it's more like hundreds of thousands. The global reach of Scientology is undeniable. Its urban literacy projects and anti-drug crusades are welcome in the cities and towns where they have won numerous civic awards and citations. The church is also clearly very wealthy, and Scientology officials claim, like lots of successful people, they have attracted their share of jealous, disgruntled critics and lawsuits.
The church says you're something of a lifeboat for a small group of very disturbed people who make outrageous claims on the internet.
It may seem outrageous to the Church of Scientology, but they don't to me.
But do you have any evidence that they're really evil and destructive?
Yes. Shattered lives, broken families, mental fragility, a recovery process that takes an incredibly long time.
Although some people would say these people were mentally fragile, a little odd, before they went into the Church of Scientology.
Well, that would be the easiest thing to say, but they're no different than you or me, by and large. And any of us at some stage of our life could be vulnerable to the type of seduction that a cult can pull off.
Not surprisingly, Minton has developed a loyal and passionate following among some former Scientologists. In the home of Vaughn and Stacy Young, the name Bob Minton is practically holy.
You've heard of these types. People call them angels. They just show up and they just do these things.
Vaughn Young and his wife Stacy left the church in 1989, embittered by their experience and determined to start a new life. They rented a house in Seattle and opened a sanctuary for abandoned cats and dogs. But a few years later, the Youngs decided to go public, criticizing the church as a dangerous cult. And they provoked what they say was an all-out assault by the church to destroy their lives.
They will find your vulnerability and use that to try to silence you.
In the summer of 1994, a newsletter showed up around the Youngs' neighborhood, accusing them of things like extortion and promiscuity. Over the next 3 years, they learned that private investigators were asking suspicious questions of their friends and neighbors and accusing the Youngs of harboring diseased cats. The Church of Scientology denies trying to harass Vaughn and Stacy Young. It says the Youngs were happy church members until they decided they could make money selling what it calls untrue horror stories of life in the church. But whoever called the neighbors, zoning officials, and City Hall to complain about the Youngs' animal shelter succeeded in getting the city to shut it down.
We were about a week and a half away from having to move. We were in a state of catastrophe.
And right around that time, Stacy and Vaughn got a phone call.
He said, my name is Bob Nixon. I read what was happening with your animal sanctuary. And I just wanted to know if there's somebody that could help you out.
Out of the blue, this Bob Minton, this voice on the phone, came into their lives. He bought the Youngs a new house where they could legally keep their animals for $250,000. Incredibly, he saved the animal shelter. Stacy says she'll never forget the day she picked up her new key.
We came to the house, we opened the front door, and Bob Minton had a huge bouquet of flowers on the table for us. It was incredible. It was real. It really was real.
And you still had...
And we never met this guy. And he just said, welcome to your new house. Congratulations.
A lot of my friends say, you know, these people are not your problems. They're not. But they are. I mean, we all do have a responsibility to each other.
Bob Minton's love thy neighbor justification for becoming Scientology's public enemy number one sounds like something else to church officials.
Bob Minton falls into a category similar to those anti-Semites who out to make it seem like there is something wrong with being a Jew.
Senior Scientology official Mike Rinder and his colleagues at the church think Minton is an impressionable man who's been manipulated by the critics and misinformed.
I think that he has decided that this is some crusade, something that will get attention for himself. Maybe he was bored. Maybe he's an idle millionaire that doesn't have anything better to do in life.
Good eye, good eye. But if Bob Minton was bored before, he's not anymore, because he's finding out for himself, when you pick a fight with the Church of Scientology, this church does not turn the other cheek.
L. Ron Hubbard says, we do not find critics of Scientology who do not have criminal pasts. Over and over, we prove this. We have this technical fact. Those who oppose us have crimes to hide. Do you believe that?
Sure.
People who oppose you are undoubtedly criminals?
I believe that, yeah.
Is Bob Minton a criminal?
I think that we will discover that at some point.
But at some point, is he a criminal? The answer to the question when we come back. Stay with us. Before we move on to Bob Minton, we want to give you some updates on a story that we're still following, that we've been following for over 2 years. If you're not familiar with this broadcast, we've been reporting on the Oxford school shooting that happened back in November of 2021, which involved Ethan Crumbley, Jennifer Crumbley, and James Crumbley. 2 were charged for Two parents are charged for involuntary manslaughter. The student was charged for murder. But since then, we've been focusing on the hearings, the sentencing, and why the parents want their bonds reduced from $500,000 to $100,000. Their attorneys say, well, they're battling against each other. But now, a new report released Monday afternoon outlined what went wrong in the response. So let's take a look.
5 with a new report detailing the findings of a multi-year independent investigation into the Oxford school shooting. The 275-page report praises parts of the response, but also points to serious breakdowns in command, communication, and training. New tonight, nearly 4 years after the Oxford High School shooting, that new 275-page report sheds light on what went wrong the day 4 students were killed and 7 others wounded.
Independent investigators at Guidepost Solutions found no neglect or dereliction of duty. That's one of the main findings, but did find some serious deficiencies in communication and training. Among them, no countywide operating procedure to guide a coordinated response. There was an unnecessary delay in dispatching the Oxford Fire Department to the scene, with some firefighters reporting getting calls from their own kids who were at the high school confirming the shooting. Also, fire and EMS were not told the shooter was in custody, which then delayed them entering the high school by around 4.5 minutes.
And the report also looked at the question of whether a faster response could have prevented loss of life. And an independent medical expert found that not even with a faster response, Madison, Tate, Justin, and Hannah would not have survived. This follows a 2023 security report from Guidepost, which deemed Oxford's current safety practices quote-unquote satisfactory. Right now, a local photojournalist is sitting down with Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard to get his reaction to the report and find out what, if anything, he says will change when it comes to how his deputies respond to future emergencies.
And we posted a link to the full report along with those key takeaways. Just scan that QR code at the bottom of your screen. We also have the link right there on the homepage of clickondetroit.com.
And no, that's not it. And look, this is the full. Look at this. This is the full report. All this right here, this is the full report that was released back in September, before we ever went on the air. So all this report outlines is what happened. All the summary of all the victims that have been happening. All the victims. Dispatcher retrained, multiple victims, attacked in a public location, a violent attack, or any other scenario. It would take over a pound of paper to create a report like this. Remind you, Oxford happened before Uvalde, so I guess the Uvalde shooter took a page out of the Michigan shooter's book and wanted to, create a scenario. But comparing and contrasting to Ethan Crumley and the shooter from Uvalde, one's in jail, the other's dead. Because all these issues were scope of work. Like all these questions, like were there practice procedures used by law enforcement? Were the institutional historical divisions? Were federal law enforcement agencies infantry turned away? Was the recovery effort active, and did it serve to heal for the harm already hurt a community? Who bears burden, and did any part of the response? This is all of the report. This is all of it. All the report can find. The policy describes 10 areas. I mean, if you look at these 10 areas, it probably would show you coordinating overall emergency activities, departure resources, appropriate organization structure, developing incident plan action, determining objectives, strategic goals, and incident priorities. So when you look at stuff like this, it was from the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. Responder safety, coordinating activities. All this report can find was no reasoning behind what happened. Lawsuits have been filed, the parents are in jail, the child's in jail. Well, he was in juvie before he was turned to adult jail because of what happened. Well, as we approach 4 years, we're still going to follow up with this story. But look at this. 911 calls, 2 hours, 241. Hour 3, 130, 110, hour 5. All these records can tell what happened. There were over 6 calls to 911. 6 calls. This report is just all about combining pounds of paper just to get the full facts straight. Would this be represented in a lawsuit? The answer would be yes, if the attorneys can corroborate and say, look at the report from a global perspective under a microscope and say, look, this is the report this is the report we made. You guys messed up. We want answers. But I don't want to get the answers. So as the 4th year approaches, we'll keep you posted on this story, and we'll report, and we'll let you know what happens. We'll be right back with the story of Bob Minton. More Bob Minton when we come back to this. Well, we've officially run out of time, but on Wednesday we're going to continue to hear more from Bob Minton. Is he a criminal? Why would the Church of Scientology turn the tables on Bob Minton? And what, if anything, should happen in the future should Bob Minton continue going into exposing more of the Church of Scientology? And this is why I'm going to tell him to stop. We'll answer those questions on our next broadcast as we continue to look deeper into Bob Minton. And also coming on Wednesday, another crash test from back in 1998. And this time, you may want to buckle up for another on-site offset test. It's going to be wild and bumpy and getting your wallet out. That's all for this edition of Give Me a Break Monday going to Tuesday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Wednesday. For all of us here at YouTube, Give Me a Break, stop bullying, speak up, concentration, not strength, no jaywalking. Always remember to take care of yourself and each other. And now and always, I'm here for you. Autism is not a disability. It's your superpower. Good night.